Welcome back to Comprehensible English Hours podcast. Today's podcast will be the third episode. This podcast will be about camping. Camping is a hobby I really enjoy during the warmer months, during spring, summer, fall. I've never camped during the winter, but I could imagine that camping during the winter might not be so fun. I really enjoy camping because in the United States there are many forests, mountains, beaches, a lot of landscapes, a lot of different kinds of nature, different kinds of places around that I get to enjoy when I camp. When I'm in the city, I don't get to enjoy that kind of scenery, those kinds of views as much. I do live more in the city, not so much in the countryside where there are farms and not so many people living there. But yes, I like to take small vacations, and I like to camp in places around where I live, or I haven't done this in a long time, but sometimes I would like to take vacations and camp in places that are more far away. And there are many kinds of ways that you can camp in the United States. Camping is a really popular hobby. A lot of people do it. There are many campgrounds, places that you can go to camp. And there are also many state parks or national parks where the government, they've made it more protected land, and they provide the funding to keep that area clean and well protected, and they hire workers to make sure that the park is managed well, that the park is taken care of. But there are many other private campgrounds that are owned by normal people. Well, not necessarily normal people. Many of them are owned by families or, I don't know, one or two people. But there are also many other kinds of campgrounds that are owned by companies. One really big one that I can think of are the KOA campgrounds. And those are usually very fancy. They have swimming pools. Oftentimes, they also have very nice roads. If you ever camp in the United States, oftentimes you'll see that the more inexpensive, the cheaper places to camp, there are dirt roads or gravel roads or very old roads. But for the more expensive, we'll call it glamping campgrounds, everything is very new, Wi-Fi, there's a pool, playgrounds, there's a lot of activities that are planned. Glamping would be glamorous camping, and usually when you go glamping, you have a camper, or another word for a camper could be a recreational vehicle, an RV, which is basically a house on wheels. If you were to ever look up a picture of an RV, you'll see that usually they have bathrooms, they have a kitchen, there's a bedroom, there's a living room, there's a TV. Some of them are very fancy, and if you go outside, sometimes there is a compartment. There is an area on the outside of the RV that could have an outdoor kitchen or could have an outdoor TV. So while you sit by the fire with a campfire, you can watch TV at night, or you can cook something on a grill rather than cook something on the fire. Now, these are very fancy. This is a very fancy way to camp. And many other people, they do the more original, the kind of camping that was first what people thought of when they thought of camping would be to just sleep on the ground in a sleeping bag, and you can look up at the stars. Hopefully the weather is nice, or you could sleep in a tent. So a tent would be a shelter, a place that is made out of fabric, but it's very small. Usually you can just fit you or maybe one other person or one other thing. So a tent is very small. If you have to go to the bathroom, it's time to go behind that tree. Also, speaking of that, if you ever do go camping in the United States, you may be offered some options. If you bring a tent, you get to choose, if you bring anything, you get to choose whether you want an electric site or if you want a primitive site. Primitive is kind of how they camped before electricity was on demand. You can take your sleeping bag, you can choose your spot. It means you have no electricity, and if you have to go to the bathroom, you would have to use the services at the campground. Usually the campground will have their own bathrooms. You just have to walk to them. Electric, if you bring your tent, if you bring your RV, your camper, you can just plug it in and enjoy the electricity. There really is no worries there. So if you have a TV, if you have a cooler, a refrigerator, if you have lights set up in your tent, you have your electricity. But usually those cost more, and sometimes they can cost a lot more. Primitive camping, though, in a lot of places, if you choose that, you can pretty much choose to camp wherever you want in an area. So if there's a very pretty place, but it's very hard to get to if you are in an RV, you have to drive up there. But you can't drive up there. It's very difficult to get to with an RV because you must move it with a car. You could instead walk there, set up your tent, and camp there, just with no electricity. So you have more of the option to choose where you can sleep, where you can camp, if you choose a primitive site. Electricity sites, of course, you must stay where the electricity is, because there probably will not be electricity at the top of a mountain, unless it is an area they have cleared and they have set up for electricity. Another really nice thing that a lot of people take advantage of is, in the United States, camping can be long term. Remember that an RV can have a bathroom, it can have a living room, a kitchen, a bedroom. It's basically a small house. A lot of people actually treat the RV like a house. They live in the RV like it is their home, and they live in it for a very long time. A lot of people have seasonal sites, meaning that during the spring, the summer, the fall, they have a site where they take their RV, they set it up, and they leave it there, and they'll come back to it like it's their summer home. It is their summer home. There are also people who will travel, usually retired people, people who have enough money and they stop working, or they receive money because they are retired, and they choose instead that they can go south in the winter where it is warmer, and during the warmer months like the summer, they'll come back up north. Of course, if they live north. I live north, so I only know people like that. If you live in the south, you might just travel around the south. I don't know, whatever you prefer. But they have the ability to travel all around the country in their house on wheels, and they do that pretty much all year. And they can because their house is on wheels and they can take their house with them, which can be really nice if you enjoy camping. So camping is a hobby of mine. I have not paid as much money as those who might have an RV, but I still really enjoy it. And if you ever come here as a tourist, you might also enjoy maybe spending a night or two trying the camping experience. You could rent a cabin, you could rent an RV, you could buy a cheap tent, and you could give it a try because we have a lot of really nice campgrounds in the United States, and usually people are very friendly at the campground. It would be a very interesting experience. If you are the kind of person who you think you might really enjoy nature, I would recommend it. Otherwise, maybe just do a day visit. Come check out the scenery, come look at the views, and then go back to your hotel. Thank you very much for listening to today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.